Okay, so yes, Chief Design Officer at Future Fabrics Expo. This gives you an insight into the work that we do. We are delighted to be here for the second year running in partnerships with Performance Days to bring to you our knowledge and our practice in really driving the future of materials. So as I said, that gives you an insight into our large expo, usually in London every June. This year it will take place alongside the Recycling Expo in Brussels. I'll give you the information at the end of this presentation. So, what is it we do? Primarily, we were founded really to drive that positive change that I was speaking about before. And we do this through sourcing the best practice materials around the world from a sustainability perspective. We curate them, we bring the best we possibly can, we do the due diligence on actually interrogating those materials, their suppliers, and their operations. That involves a lot of research. And of course, a big part of what we do, in fact, the backbone of what we do is we are presenting knowledge and education around these new materials, why we think they represent better choices. So we've probably all heard of the circular economy. I'm sure the presentation earlier was speaking about that linear model we're all familiar with. But of course, we know that we really need to move to a circular model. And hence our sort of joining forces with the Textile Recycling Expo in Brussels this year as well. That's another way of us kind of collaborating and trying to drive the industry toward change. So we know a big word that is coming up, you'll probably be hearing it quite a lot, is regenerate and regenerative. I'm going to go through a few examples of what that means. We know we need to eliminate waste and pollution that is building up in toxic piles all over the world in our oceans. And we know that we need to move towards circularity, both in our material sourcing and whole products as well. And critically decouple our economic activity from the consumption of finite resources, aka synthetic materials, which of course this product category is hugely dependent on at the moment. So where can we look to drive that change? We call it the materials revolution, and that's what we're trying to get the industry excited about. And what does that represent? I mean, you'll be able to see many examples here in our Innovation Hub and also our stand right at the back of the hall there. We want to inspire, we want to provide the solutions and enable the industry to understand why they need to shift. We do this because out of all of these products that we're all involved in creating, materials really matter. They're a great place to begin thinking more sustainably and in a regenerative way. So we all know that those materials lie at the heart of the fashion industry, the foundation of everything that we do, shaping the design, feel, and functionality. And they are also pivotal to our industry's environmental and social footprints. They account for 91% of the industry's total emissions through their extraction, processing, and production. And it has been, we've got the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and obviously lots of research going on around the world that's estimating around 80% of the environmental impact of a product is influenced by the decisions made at the R&D stage. That's all you guys and all the people working in material innovation. So we want to try, as an organization, we want to try and communicate this to the industry. How can we understand our material impacts? And that involves sort of a multi-layered approach, but it involves sort of also stepping back and realizing that actually, if you look at our material dependencies over time, we stretch back through history, we've got some certain hotspots which have given us red flags, or these spots that I've got here. And they involve both raw materials and how we produce product. So you can see here above me, you know, we entered a sort of extraction phase when when technology enabled us to mass produce and mass extract products and resources from the earth. We then quickly, in the last century, traveled into the age of synthetics. And here was our problem issue. So this dependency upon petrochemicals, a substance that we didn't know at the time had such appalling impacts upon ecosystems, nature isn't able to break it down. So that's that big middle bit there. And then we pushed really hard for globalization. So we're mass making products that we can't circulate properly because the raw materials won't allow us to do that. And then we went, oh, we better stop doing this. And putting the brakes on this monolith was obviously extremely difficult. So now we are in the age of sustain and regenerate. Sustain meaning carry on as normal, but we've decimated too much of resources to do that. So now the word now and the emphasis is on understanding how can we regenerate? How can we have positive impacts and not just carry on as usual? So we see over on here, although it's difficult to see, but you'll be able to see this poster over on our innovation hub, so you can take photos over there, is that we're moving towards a proliferation of material innovation that we have not seen since the beginning of the last century when the synthetics were introduced. We now understand how toxic and polluting they are, so there's been an about turn to try and find solutions to replacing the current practices. And one of the things that we do as an organization is we create resources and tools that we hope will help support the industry in making better decisions. Again, this one is over there on our hub, so if you can't quite make out the tiny little text, it's quite dense. First thing is we start with provenance. Where do our raw materials come from? What does it take to make the thing that you're all wearing right now? So we organize, where do our materials come from? That helps us ask the questions to our suppliers. Where in the world? How does it get made? Is it grown? Is it on the back of an animal? What does that mean? So you then start to open up questions if you know the provenance and understand the provenance of your raw materials. But this little section here, you see the sort of pink box in the middle, we're going to concentrate on that a little more for the innovations that we've brought to you in this showcase. So as we said, most of our material world, you guys probably already know this, 2/3 of our material world is made from petrochemicals, synthetics. That's everything we're pretty much walking around in right now. Well over a half of it is accounted for with polyester, and that's exactly the same polymer as your single-use water bottle. It's often a bit of a revelation to make that link that, oh, your sports leggings or whatever it is are actually exactly the same material as that bottle you throw away so easily. And of course, the inherent problems, the industry is now waking up really to the toxicity that is loaded within not just the fiber itself, but also the chemicals that are used to process that fiber and color that fiber. And what's being loaded onto the fibers that we're all walking around in that actually has really toxic knock-on effects right the way throughout the environment and for people's health as well. I think there's some quote, don't know how correct it is, that we're all walking around with a credit card sized piece of plastic inside us in microparticles. And of course that does come from our clothing, but there's a lot of scuffing off from other materials such as tires. It's a huge problem. But what we can do is we can start thinking about that and making better choices, asking questions, what's in this material? What did it take to produce it, color it, etc.? So the petroleum-based origins we've just spoken about, and that release, which we all know is going on, and what those little fibers are actually carrying with them, regardless of what the fiber source actually is. And of course, you probably all know Patagonia were one of the first on this concept of, understanding microfiber release, both through the processing of our fibers, but also at the consumer phase, washing those garments once they're worn and repeatedly washing them and releasing microfibers. And so, as we say, they're making their way through the food chain and they are actually inside us, presenting massive health risks to animals and humans as well. So what we want to do is do an about face and realize that actually the common sense in learning from nature in regard to our raw material fiber dependencies, and thinking about if something is negative, what choices have I got to make to reverse that or go in a different direction. So we created this mapping. Again, you can see that over there on our innovation hub, right at the back of the hall, which is the main theme being the core of what we want to do is to try and restore and regenerate nature and circulate materials. And so how might we do that? There's the learning from nature element. There's thinking about ourselves. We're an animal, we're part of nature. And I think we often feel like we're very separate from it. So everything that we do has an effect. And we also want to remember the social component as well within that. How does, where your raw materials come from, how does that affect certain communities around the world? And how's that being managed? And is it restorative rather than just extractive? And then, of course, earlier we were hearing about circular design and what can that mean to you? It means different elements. It can be quite nuanced for different brands, but essentially you are trying...
Hosted by Accelerating Circularity, will start at the Circularity Zone in Ward C2 at 10 a.m.
Sorry. So, what might that mean to you? What might circular practice actually mean to your brand? And where can you achieve that? At the end of the day, we've really got to think about all of these things, not just, I want to do good. That's great. It makes business sense as well. So in looking to nature-based solutions, we come on to what we've brought you in this showcase at the back of the hall there, which are what we call next-gen materials. Now, that term has been bandied around quite a lot. Our definition of it is they are those innovative materials and fibers that are created using usually novel feedstocks and latest technologies. And their whole reason for being is to improve both circularity and environmental and social outcomes. So we've got a whole plethora of innovation categories there, including nature-based regenerative systems that we spoke about on the last mapping, some agricultural and post-consumer food waste, biosynthetic technologies, which of course you're probably going to hear a lot about various suppliers here bringing biosynthetic technologies to market. Post-petrochemical color, what does that look like? Well, you can see loads of examples on our hub there. We're going to go through some of them. And the ability to separate fiber and reuse it so it joins a loop, it becomes a circular loop. And in categorizing these next-gen materials, we've got a more detailed map of what I'm showing you here over there on the hub. But basically, it's a sort of nesting set of definitions. We hear the word biomaterial bandied around a lot. We hear the word bio-based. But we have to be careful to understand that bio-based actually can mean a very, very small percentage of bio. So again, they be big questions to your suppliers. And then we come on to the wonderful world of bioassembled materials such as mycelium. You've probably heard a lot about that, and materials that are created using bacterial synthesis. And then also the biofabricated ingredients. So those are the nature-focused ingredients where man is designing in partnership with nature. So this is the central bit of the matrix that I showed you earlier, which has got the definitions on it, which again, as I said, it's over there for your reference as well. And this really helps you to understand the various categories. So when we're bandying around these bio words, to really understand what they mean so that when you're talking to somebody, you actually understand what are the questions I need to ask. As I said, those definitions are all there that I spoke about before, being aware that they're not all exactly the same. All these bio prefixes don't all mean the same thing. Then, of course, when we understand where they come from, that's the first bit, and what they mean. The next bit is how do they come from being a bioassembled material, such as mycelium root, for example, and turned into an actual material that you might have the opportunity to use. So each one of these processing routes, again, these posters are also hanging in the Innovation Hub if you want to need a close-up. They each involve different processing routes. And in those processing routes, there are slightly different impacts to question. So this maps that out. And so what we're presenting over there on the hub is a range of regenerative material solutions. And performance without toxicity starts from the beginning, as I said before, with the very provenance of materials. So we've got a great one here. We've got an amazing elastic. I think one of the holy grails of sort of performance and fashion is to crack an elastic that won't actually pollute. So that's not petrochemical based. So this is one, it's a brand new innovation, and you can actually touch it on the Innovation Hub over there. So grown from bamboo. And that's a regenerative crop that supports soil health and biodiversity. So it's 100% plant-based elastic webbing. Then we have some algae-based materials now. Using seaweed sounds quite curious. We know that it's can be regeneratively grown and farmed and great for foodstuffs. I think we all know about that. But here is a beautiful yarn created by Phyco Labs, made in Brazil. So they're harvesting this renewable biomass that grows really rapidly, and it helps to restore marine ecosystems and improve water quality. We've got another algae base. This one is a packaging film, very beautiful, biodegradable packaging film, clear film. So it shows you the whole process on the hub over there, right the way from taking the algae and turning it into this biofilm. We've also got Balena, who we've shown before, but they're consistently, this is an Israeli-based company, they're consistently iterating the properties of their material, and it's all bio-based, completely high bio-based, and they produce a range of foams and stretchy materials and harder materials. This is a collaboration with Stella McCartney, and it's the Soul unit is by Balena. This is a beautiful one. We bought this. This is a more speculative project, but we love the thinking from this. This is about growing actual bacteria, UV protective substances, which this particular innovator suspended in some kind of stretchy and silicone-like substances. But it will actually produce melanin, much like our own skin does, so for protective surfacing. We've all heard of circular knitting, and there's many companies around performance days today where you'll see some beautiful performance knitting, but this is the first one that we've seen, which is a 3D circular weave. So it's the black exhibit over there on our hub, but it was completely circular weave for the first time. So it's minimizing waste, components, and the downstream assembly part of things. You can actually build a whole leg of trousers. And it's material agnostic, which is amazing. We've also got, we just referred earlier to the fact that we've got processing, dyeing, water wastage, and toxic chemicals carried with our raw materials. And the denim industry is one that's particularly heavy on all of those impacts. This is an amazing technology using a digital colorization process that deposits droplets of the dye into the material. So what you're seeing there is not a denim indigo. It's all been effectively printed, sort of very, very high spec. It's really difficult to tell the difference between this and a real stonewashed pair of jeans. This is a beautiful one. We're really proud to follow this innovator. We've been showing her work when she's working with mycelium. She is one of the H&M Global Change Award finalists this year. And this is real regenerative solutions making for dyes in practice. So it's using earth-derived pigments, and they're cultivated on contaminated or degraded sites. So they're growing plants that remediate the sites, basically clean them up, and that's what they're taking the color from. So we've got a whole amazing process with this particular innovation. So we're hoping she's one of the winners. Then we've got New Era Bio. These are biodegradable dyes and binders. So they're created with fermentation, and you can drop them into existing supply chains. So I think, when we see a lot of innovations and we We love them because they're so inspirational and visionary, but really the industry is looking for drop-in solutions, and this is one of those. We've also got colorifics showing for the first time printing inks. Now, colorifics have been known. They've done some commercial collaborations. They've been known for a while for dye stuffs, but now we've got an ink as well. So you can see that over there on the hub. And we've got some amazing dye technologies coming out of De Montfort University. This is in collaboration with Loughborough. So, I would say we're keeping an eye on the academic institutions and the research work that they're doing, actually in collaboration with industry as well. They're doing some amazing things. They're extracting both dye and fiber from used garments and able to put those both back into new material streams. And of course, we're delighted as well to show Sparkcell, again, British innovation that came out of Cambridge University, isolating, we all know there's lots of plastic, petroleum involved in sequins and films and creating these really gorgeous, funky colors. Sparkcell managed to isolate that from nature and not using any petrochemicals at all. So you can have a sequin, you can have film, you can have printing ink, you can have glitter for even cosmetics, all from the same technology. This one's great as well. Over there on the hub, you can see this. We know there are a lot of ink packs associated with the RFID tags that we all use, basically to track your garments and everything. When you think about the materials that are actually used in those tags, this is replacing all of those metals. It actually brings the cost down as well, and it's paper and it's biodegradable. So, winding up, there's lots of opportunity in the innovation space, both for investment and for brands to really start thinking about. Now, you're not going to be able to start working with some of these immediately. Some you are, and it will tell you on the cards over there on Innovation Hub which are ready for commercial implementation. But we know there's a lot of activity in this space because the fashion industry does recognize as a broader entity that we cannot go on as we have done in this 20th century extract and decimate way. If we want to stay in business and we all want to flourish, there are major opportunities that we're here. You can see that we've seen the innovation landscape go up rapidly. And this organization tracked that there are over 650 innovations across materials and recycling, and that's an increase of 400% since 2017. So it's very significant, the appetite for new innovations being created and brands wanting to take them up. Just one note, you will see on the table on some of the cards, it will tell you whether an innovation is level 3, 4, 5, 6, for example. That indicates how close it is ready for actual market implementation. Some of the cards will tell you whether it's an early stage or startup, but others will refer to this scale, which is taken from NASA, but is now applied to many other products to let you know how far along the developmental stage they are. And finally, thank you for listening. Please save the date for those of you that are able to come to Brussels. Please do. You'll get a double whammy. You get Future Fabrics Expo on 3,200 square meters, as well as the Textiles Recycling Expo right bang next door to us. So do please join us, follow us on socials, come and visit the Innovation Hub, and I'll stand behind that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda. Don't run away. I have a question.
Yes.
I have the microphone, so I can ask a question directly. And we do have time for a few questions from the audience. So if any one of you has a question, Elena has a microphone and she'll be very happy to bring it to you. My first question is about all the materials you've shown. As a designer, is there a way I can access those online? And how can I integrate them? Is there a training session of any kind to help me use those tools that you have developed?
Absolutely. So as I said, all of our educational tools, they're open source throughout our expos and here on the Innovation Hub, as you'll see. We've also have a virtual expo as well. So if you go on to the Sustainable Angle website and you go into you can see on the drop-down menu, it says Virtual Expo. You can take a look. We have around 4,000 materials on that virtual expo. And you can source from those companies straight away. When it comes to more speculative or early stage innovations, obviously you can make appointments with our team to discuss, how do you go about that? Or obviously come and ask us on the hub as well. The team are there. There's 4 of us here for the next 2 days to give advice. But absolutely start with our virtual expo as well if you're not able to come to one of our expos in person. But yeah.
And the virtual expo, what's the website?
So that sits within the sustainableangle.org, which was on the bottom of that slide, I think. The sustainableangle.org, and you'll see a drop-down menu that says Virtual Expo. Just click on that. You can see, it is a subscription, but you can see quite a lot of stuff for free. So it's as I said, around 4,000 of our selection of our materials, which are commercially available.
Thank you. And for those of you that want to reference this talk and all the talks will be available on the Performance Days website on demand within 2 to 3 weeks. So you can watch it again or go in there and find the references online.
Fantastic. Anybody got any other questions? I know you're up next, Alexa, but as I said, we're all on the hub at the back there if you want to come and ask any further questions.
Thank you.
Very welcome.